Welcome back. And as you already know, we're on a magical journey with 4 different guests this evening. These are people who will be appearing at the Star Knowledge Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. And this is really an amazing journey that has been happening for me anyway this evening, and I certainly hope it has been for you too. It has absolutely brought all kinds of thoughts to my mind, and I hope it has given you some reason to consider whether or not you're going to go to the conference this year. If you're in that area, or even if you're not, and you want to go to the Star Knowledge Conference, go to starknowledgenashville.com, and you will find all the information that you're looking for. It'll be there, including information about our next guest. With me this evening, in this last segment, is Michael Lee Hill. And I am certain you're going to be fascinated by what he has to tell us. Michael, you're with us?
Yeah, how you doing, Jerry?
I am doing great. It's really good to have you on, and I'm glad you're on with us this last segment. Tell us a little bit about yourself for the folks who might not know who you are.
Alrighty. Well, as you said, my name is Michael Lee Hill. I guess I would be most known for appearing on the UFO Hunters episode Alien Contact, which was in Season 1. And I am a contactee with a race known as the Anunnaki. And I guess just in a nutshell, I live very close to Lake Erie, and started seeing some craft over the lake, and this is around 2005 time period, and just started filming a lot of these lights over the lake, and some of the clips started to go viral, and that led to the History Channel, offering to do the show with me. So it's been a strange trip.
And when did this start?
Well, I started accumulating the footage around 2005, and like I said, I live really close, so I found some nice beaches, in this area, and I'd just go down around sunset, and if a big ball of light went by, I was ready to film it. And so some of that stuff, like I said, has went viral, and it's my YouTube page excuse me, I'm tongue-tied now. If people want to check it out, it's Frozen Hill, and you can see my channel has about nearing 4 million views now. So it's been ongoing from that time period forward to presently.
What kind of crafts have you been shooting footage of? Well,
they look like luminous orbs of light that the best way I can describe it is they're pulsating multi-dimensional colors. Just picture the most vibrant, beautiful blues, greens, reds, purples, but they're pulsing through all the color spectrums like many times per second. So it just looks like this jumble of beautiful light. And they're about the size of a small hot air balloon, I guess you could say, but they come in fleets too. And that sometimes 3 of these orbs of light will come together into a triangular formation and become what, for all appearances, looks like a solid triangular craft. And I filmed that quite often as well. Sometimes, there'll only be one out there for a minute, but sometimes another one will show up just out of nowhere. They just appear. And sometimes there's whole fleets of them out there. I've also filmed them going in and out of the lake, which is interesting.
Wow, that's interesting. The sightings in Mexico, where they have they're called the string of pearls, I think. Is it anything like that?
Yes, actually, because of my own research and documenting this phenomena, I was contacted by Bigelow Aerospace and learned a lot from them. People don't know this yet, but this phenomenon is showing up worldwide, over Mexico, as you stated, over California, over Texas, Phoenix. It's all the same phenomenon. Over the Skinwalker Ranch, they told me, in Utah. They said that they know what I'm filming is the real thing because it's what the Bigelow people have been filming over the Skinwalker Ranch and investigating for about 25 years now. And it's interesting to me because this phenomenon is getting mass media attention, but they're being presented in the news like these are isolated events and have nothing to do with one another. But once you see the clips back to back of these news broadcasts, you see it's the exact same phenomenon. They're flying in the same formations, and I think it won't be long until they won't be able to keep this subject, because obviously what happens when they just show up over every major city simultaneously?
They did have something like that happen in Lima. It's been a couple of years back now, but there was this string of pearls that just showed up over Lima, and people with their cell phones and cameras, our son was living there at the time, and filmed this, and it was absolutely amazing.
It's mind-blowing to me, and I think it's one of the most fascinating and exciting things that these things are showing up. And, from what I understand, too, the reasons they're even called skinwalkers in, the Utah area is because of the Native American Indians of that area. That's what they called them, because they would see these orbs come down and actually take on biological life forms like a giant wolf or a deer or, whatever. I think it's really fascinating because the Bigelow investigator pointed me towards some declassified documents from the UK Ministry of Defense. And they revealed that these balls of plasma are the real deal, and they don't know how they form over Hastalen, Norway as well. And there's a lot of data that's coming out of that area. But the UK Ministry of Defense said that what's mind-blowing is 3 of these things can come together, like we were saying, and create a triangular craft that reflects radar and starlight or whatever. For all intents and purposes, it becomes a triangular craft. So if you think about this, we're saying that whatever this phenomenon is, the intelligence behind it can take on biological form or technological form, almost anything within our physical reality, which that's kind of weird to wrap your head around,
Well, maybe these are devices that are wrapping around one of these forms, and when the device is turned off, then that form becomes visible. What do you think about that idea?
I think it's right on the money. I've been led to the knowledge that everyone has these. People call them your aura, your energy field around you, and from what I understand, there's certain spiritual meditative practices that you can get your energy field spinning in such a fashion that it will ignite into an orb of light, and it's called a Merkaba. From what I've learned from some contacts within, the shadow government, I guess you could call it, they said that these orbs of light, they look at them as multi-dimensional, like extraterrestrial drones, but they said that the intelligence behind the drone might not even be from this timeline. It might be from our past or our future, which is pretty mind-blowing in itself. So I think we got a lot to learn about them, but I'm excited about the prospects of it.
Well, and you say you've been in contact with this, with the Anunnaki. Is that in the same leagues as these lights, these things that you're shooting video of?
Well, I can tell you when I met the Anunnaki for the first time, I'm talking face-to-face. I'm not talking channeling or anything like that.
Right.
They said, we heard you've been filming us over Lake Erie. And so they've totally taken credit. But from what I understand, a lot of advanced races use this exact same spiritual light technology to travel interdimensionally. And so just because it's a ball of light doesn't mean that it's Anunnaki. But in our own history, because the Anunnaki are so intertwined in human history, 9 out of 10 chances if you see an orb of light, there's an Anunnaki intelligence behind it.
Well, at least an off-worlder intelligence for sure.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. So when you had these face-to-face conversations, how long after you started filming did they show up?
Well, I started filming them around 2005, and, every year I actually just asked them to start coming in closer, because what was happening is, imagine I got this it's a Sony Handycam that records onto a digital 8mm tape, and you got this beautiful ball of light out there, and I'm looking at it through a little black and white 1" by 1" viewfinder, you know, and it really, I don't like filming them because it takes away from the actual experience and the awe of being able to sit there. But I know it's important to document this for humanity. So, you know, I did what I needed to do, but I started to tell them, listen, I got plenty of footage. I'm not going to get out my camcorder unless you come in closer or do something I haven't seen before, and I will film you. And sure enough, that, you know, every year they came in closer and closer until, you know, they're within swimming distance sometimes out over the lake right in front of me. So, so all of this was setting up to what happened was when the History Channel came in to do the alien contact episode, they had interviewed another contactee, and his name is Terrell Copeland, and he was a Marine that lived in Washington. And what I didn't know is the History Channel crew had went to film him 2 weeks prior to when they came to visit me, and Terrell had filmed the exact same orbs of light I had the same story of contact, had the same spiritual message given to him, but they found out he was discharged from the military because they were going to send him overseas, and they did a really in-depth medical workup, and the military doctors found that he had this unknown blood anomaly that none of the best doctors in the world could put a handle on, could figure it out. So they gave him an honorary discharge. But here the History Channel is thinking, well, wouldn't it be strange if these two guys that don't know each other, they're separated by 500 miles, what if this person from Ohio, meaning me, if me and Terrell ended up having that same blood anomaly? So they flew us both to Boston to have our blood and medical work done by a Harvard professor. His name was David Sereda. And it was released on the Alien Contact episode that, sure enough, I have the exact same unknown blood anomaly as Terrell. And actually our numbers, as far as they said, were almost identical, which was putting what the anomaly is creatine kinase is an enzyme that the brain usually releases normally, and the normal amounts of that is about 25 parts per liter of blood. If there's been muscle damage or, you know, some trauma to the body, the brain releases higher quantities of creatine kinase, which, what I found out, it brings oxygen into the blood to facilitate healing. Our levels, mine and Terrell, was around 2,100 versus 25 being normal. So you can look at that as it's super oxygenating the bloodstream, which I found out brings higher electrical capacitance on a cellular level. It's like your body can hold more chi or life force, but it doesn't mean some people might have it and not even know it just lies dormant because they don't do anything with it. But the reason I'm telling you this is that's what started this whole road to me meeting the Anunnaki, because first of all, I seen these orbs of light out over the lake, escalated to being on the History Channel and having my medical work done by this Harvard professor, then revealing I don't have normal human blood. That set up the meeting 6 months after that episode aired, which was early 2008, is when the Anunnaki approached me at a festival called Sirius Rising. They had some people of their race there, you know, and they approached me and said, you know, like I told you, we heard you've been filming these and we'd like to talk to you and kind of fill you in on what this blood anomaly is. And it's truly the marker of what's known as the Nephilim, which is the hybrid human Anunnaki bloodline here on the planet. So that's what we talked about, and it was an interesting meeting.
Does anyone else in your family have this anomaly?
That's an interesting question. I was adopted, and so all my life I never knew my nationality. And so when this happened in 2008 with the Harvard professor, they said, you know, if you can get a hold of your biological parents, you probably should, to see if this is a genetic thing. Like you're saying, is it a family history of it? So for the first time, I tracked down my biological mother, and I met her in the late part of 2008. And I met my two half-sisters as well. And that's when I found out for the first time my own Native American heritage. And found out my great-grandfather is pureblood Seneca of the Iroquois tribe. And my biological father, this is a little weird subject for me because I found out it's someone quite famous. It's Eric Clapton. And from what I understand from my biological mother, he called himself a blue boy, that he had blue blood, which is another indicator of the same thing we're talking about. By the way, I'm just wrote a letter to Eric that's being handed to him to let him know that he's got a son out there, and hopefully he'll respond. If not, that's okay too, but so that's the answer to that. But it's interesting because now being invited by Chief Golden Light Eagle to speak at the Star Knowledge Conference just really blows my mind because not long ago I didn't even know I had Indian heritage,
Right.
So it's quite an honor to me to be asked to go and talk about my story and what I've learned at the Star Knowledge Conference. So I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that for a second. Are you doing a workshop, a lecture? What are you going to be doing there?
Both. I'm going to be doing a regular lecture on the Lake Erie UFOs. I'll be showing a compilation of the best of my own footage that's never been seen on TV or whatnot, along with some of my research. Like I was saying, I got all this documentation now from the UK Ministry of Defence and Hasdale in Norway. And, I found out that in this area, in the Lake Erie area here near Cleveland, I went and found two newspaper articles that dated back to the 1800s where people were reporting the same phenomenon. They called them wizard lights back then. You find out that the Native American Indians of this area knew about it and told people, don't really want to mess with that, what's going on, So I think that's an interesting point, too, because a lot of people come to me and they're like, well, I think it's our own technology. This is reverse engineered technology that we're dealing with. And I think when you add in the fact that this phenomenon was reported and witnessed in the 1800s in this area, that kind of negates that theory,
Well, that
which is
certainly seems like that would be the case. One of the things that Kathy and I looked into was the Joplin lights. And there were people who had all kinds of theories, just like they do with what you've filmed. But these things have been going on since there have been white people in that area, and no one can explain what it is any more than they can explain what you're filming. And could it be people from the future, the past? That's just a real head scratcher, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. I guess we've never asked the question because it's hard to wrap your head around. But what is it like to meet a multidimensional being? Obviously that means they're not from our time-space continuum. This timeline. I wasn't prepared for some of it, because they can make their contact known in very, very strange ways. Which I'll give you an example. The Bigelow investigator told me that at the Skinwalker Ranch, some of the weirdest phenomenon, they called it poltergeist activity, but they said that this intelligence would just let them know that it was there in very strange ways. Like, obviously, all these scientists are living at the ranch that, Bigelow is a multi-billionaire, so it's funded and has the best equipment money can buy. So these scientists are living at the ranch, and obviously they got to go and buy groceries, and they're staying there, so they cook and whatnot. So they unload all the groceries into the cupboards in the refrigerator, walk into the next room, and then realize, oh, I forgot my drink. Go back into the kitchen, and all of the groceries were back in the grocery bags.
Wow.
Well,
that brings up a question. With what you're experiencing, are you finding that there are any unusual phenomena in that area or with you as a result of this?
Well, in this area, what I've found out is there's a very good reason that this phenomenon has such a history here, going back in time, and it delves right in again with the Star Knowledge Conference and the Native American Indian connection to all this, and that is, who is the mound builders? Who is this race of beings who built the Serpent Mound and the Newark earthworks and these giant skeletons that have been removed from these earth mounds that range anywhere from 8 to 16 feet tall. But what's interesting is the further back in time you go with these remains from the earth mounds, the taller the stature of the skeletal remains, which means there's still been genetic work reducing the stature of the Nephilim throughout all these years. So from what I understand right now, the Nephilim are not giants anymore. They're the same height. A Nephilim could walk right by you on the street and you would never know any difference. The only way to tell now is one of the markers is the creatine kinase, like I was telling you. The Harvard professor said the only thing he could think of that would create something like the situation of this off-the-charts levels amount of creatine kinase would be some kind of unknown virus that's tricking the body into releasing, the CK levels. And he said, all viruses aren't bad. I know that sounds strange, but it's one of the only things that can work at the level of DNA.
Right.
So everything's all connected because, with the Nephilim and the mound builders and the skeletons that's been removed, just anyone that's interested in this, go to Google and type haplogroup X. Haplogroups is how they trace DNA lineages back through time. And in 1997, they found a brand new DNA lineage, which is pretty recent. And this DNA, haplogroup X, for the most part, was found mostly in the skeletal remains of these skeletons that's been removed from the earth mounds. Interestingly enough, 3% of the North American Indian tribes still have this DNA coursing through their veins right now, and in ancient Israel. So truly what we're talking about is the revealing of one of the lost tribes of Israel and what happened to them.
Wow.
I heard they weren't lost, they were hidden, which is kind of interesting.
Well,
but it's all connected,
We have about 3 minutes left before the end of show takes over. Briefly, what is your workshop about?
I'm going to be getting more in depth into what I've learned spiritually about how, belief, which is thoughts, feelings, and emotions, create our own physical experience, our physical reality. And, science is now catching up, and quantum physicists are saying the exact same thing now. But I was guided into knowledge about mental energy and how to start using it responsibly. So I'll be getting into some of those topics in the workshop, and I'm really excited to do that. And I'm thankful to Chief Golden Light Eagle to be giving me this opportunity to share my story and just to meet with the elders too. Like I said, you can imagine for someone that never even knew they were an Indian to be invited with all these elders and be able to meet them and do a sweat lodge with them. And,
sure.
I'm excited,
Well, I want to thank you for being with us, Michael, and I'd like to invite you back onto the show and do a proper 2-hour interview with you.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. I think our listeners would enjoy that. And folks, as I've been saying, if you have a chance, go to the Star Knowledge Conference in Nashville. You'll be right in the presence and able to listen to lectures and take workshops from folks like Michael and the others who have been on my show this evening. It's not something that you should miss. I do believe that this is going to be one of those enlightening circumstances that is available, and you really should take advantage of it. Michael, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We have a couple of short announcements, and not really. I mean, the major announcement is the Star Knowledge Conference. I'll be there, and you won't be able to miss me. I'm nearly 7 foot tall. And I look forward to meeting up with all of you. So, Michael, stay with me as we go out and close out the show. And, folks, I want to leave you with an idea that it is a good thing if you practice human kindness. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. Reach out to the people that are near you and let them know that you care. That's all for this episode of the Jerry Wills Show. Next week, we are going to have a rebroadcast. Kathy and I will be in Calgary, Canada, up there for about a week. Be doing some work. And then we'll be back. Folks, have a great rest of the week. Talk to you soon. Good night, everyone.